going back to Hawaii back in the 80s, and I was talking to his brother and said, you know, there was a time when, you know, Marty and I used to surf together. We had a couple of surfboards, a lot of good times doing that. But at some point we concocted this plan. We were going to go to the Philippines because I'm a history buff. Marty's a history buff. We were going to go to the Philippines and look at World War II sites and that kind of stuff. Sure. So we had a plan, and we actually went down to the Hickam and we signed up for a MAC flight to go down to the Philippines. And somebody told my wife, said, you know, your husband's going to the Philippines with Marty Gillen. Needless to say, once the word got out, she said, you're not going to the Philippines with Marty you're going for history. I said, yeah, history, yeah, of course. Anyway, we didn't go to the Philippines. I actually, and I'm, you know, out of seriousness, I really wanted to because his brother was out there, they had a business, but I didn't go. But that was my wife back, and that was like 1980 something or other. So I just got a text from my wife, and when I told her that Marty passed away, she knew Marty. Everybody loved Marty, and she said, "I can't believe Marty died. He was the guy was a rock. He was an athlete, and she was upset, and she wanted me to pass on to you a toast for Marty. And so here's to Marty from my wife, Mary."
Another Marty story. We've known Marty for many years, Yvonne and I, and we both went through troubling times. Both went through a divorce. And of course, Marty's open door policy saved us, and from there we prospered. But Marty and Yvonne and I were like the three musketeers. We had a great time whenever we were together, and the open door policy, as everybody has said, that's Marty. You know, that's how he was. So, another salute to Marty.
Story. And Marty, you know, there's the old saying that, I think it was actually Benjamin Franklin, that said, brothers may not be best friends, but best friends are always best brothers. And that's how Marty was. With everyone who was his friend. I didn't know Marty very much. I just happened to fly with him. And but the kind of person that he was caring. He always looked and see life around him and took note. So one day I get this call out of the blind, and it's Marty. He said, "Is everything okay?" I said, "Yeah, everything's okay." He says, "Really? Well, I just saw you down the airport. You were walking with your wife and your daughter. And you guys looked like you were going to a funeral. So I thought somebody died in the family, calling just to see if everything's okay." Of course, my marriage was dying at the time, my family life was dead, and that's what he saw. When things got worse down the line, is what Rick mentioned, I find myself with two suitcases and a Honda Accord in the middle of Coral Gables, not knowing where to go because the cops just booted me out of my home. So who do I call? Marty. It's like midnight. But he's okay for that time of day. So I said, "Marty," I said, "What's going on? You in trouble?" I said, "Yeah. I don't know what to do. No place to stay." What happened? Well, the cops got me out of the house. I said, "Well, take this 112, do this." "What's that?" "That's my place. I've never been here." So I get here, you know, knock on the door. He says, "Where's your stuff?" He says, "In the car." "We'll bring it in." So I get my two suitcases, bring them in. "Come here." Go around the kitchen. And go in that little room. He says, "There's your room. There's a bathroom right there. Anything that's in the refrigerator, help yourself to anything you want. What do you drink?" I said, "I don't know." "Well, let's start with scotch." And that was about, you know, maybe 1 o'clock in the morning, and he probably listened to my sad story that night till maybe 5 in the morning, and just continued for the next weeks and months because we were intolerable, because we were both going through all this heartache, you know, that's typical in a divorce, but he put up with it. That's how I became his friend. I actually lived here for about 4 or 5 months. I said, "How long can I stay?" "We'll talk about that tomorrow." So time went on, and you know, he became my best friend. Of course, there were some rules, you know, it's his house, his rules, and that included your social life. So whenever I brought somebody, he didn't mind me bringing anybody here. In fact, my whole family's been here. Alright? But whenever I brought somebody he didn't like, he said, you can come here and stay here as long as you want, but you bring that woman again, you're out of here. Hey, Father Marty. So, there's no words that can describe a man like him, but at the darkest time of my life, he gave me everything, including hope. So, again, here's to Marty.
Privileged to be a friend of Marty's. In the days of San Diego, gosh, life was footloose and fancy-free. We water skied frequently on Mission Bay. We went out at night, and we had great times as bachelors, as we were then. And we shared a lot of great times. And then I think Marty made the move to Miami ahead of me when we picked up Eastern Roots, and Miami became a junior base. And so he started flying the 7-2, and he said, boy, life is great out here in Miami, you know, and made me think, why not? So I moved out to Miami, and I think I camped out at Marty's place for a while. Same situation as you heard from some of the other guys. And over the years, we shared the ups, we shared the downs. Marty's phone calls, legendary at any time, 8 o'clock at night to midnight, if something was on his mind or whatever.
Never before.
I mean, yeah, that's true. I mean, and you probably all know that sometimes the only way that you could get off the phone was to say you had to go to the bathroom because Marty wouldn't stop. But that was Marty. But for all that Marty wanted to share about his life, I think he was more interested in sharing other people's lives.
Just for your all sake, you just know that that's genetic. It's not his problem. It's not Marty's fault.
I used to think about people that I've met in my whole life and wonder what makes a person like a man like Marty Gillen tick. What is it that makes somebody draw the whole world to his doorstep? What is it that people from Europe and South America, all over the world, how does this man become such a magnet, and how does he become so well loved by so many people? And frankly, I used to be jealous of that kind of love that other people felt for him. I felt, geez, what am I doing wrong? And what lessons can I learn from Marty, like sending birthday cards to people that you're friends, you know. I would not get birthday cards from family members, but Marty would send me a birthday card, and, you know, even times when we would lose a little touch with each other, I got birthday cards from Marty. He was probably the most unique man that I've ever met in that regard. He was just such a giving person, such a caring person. You've heard all the stories about how he had the door open to anybody and anybody's friends. He wasn't concerned about his things, his own personal possessions. He was more concerned about entertaining and making other people feel good, and he was concerned about other people's welfare. And when I heard the news, I was literally devastated, and I was very shocked, as I'm sure everybody is. And I just hope that there is a heaven, and Marty's looking down upon us right now, and he's saying, you're doing it right. This is what we would have wanted, what he would have wanted us to do in his memory, and his memory will be long-lasting, felt by all that knew him. And again, another toast to a great man that lived a great life and gave a lot to so many people.
Yeah, Marty. Nicely done.
For a bunch of us coming down here, I still hate him for that. But for those of you who think that Marty, pretty much with, a bag, because I didn't think I was going to move down there. Look on the thing, I see all these names, wheelchairs coming out. Matter of fact, when I showed up, the dead giveaway was one of those trucks that pulls the wheelchair inside the van, and I go inside and find Marty. I open up the door, and it's a one-room studio. But the attraction of Marty, and this is kind of back what I talked to earlier, the attraction of Marty is that this place was only a block and a half from the beach and the surf. So he didn't care. Then I'm thinking, I'm looking in this place, it's about as big as this table right here. Where am I going to sleep? You know, what's going to happen? Didn't matter, don't care. You know, I slept on the floor. It's all about the surf. You know, first thing in the morning, run, surf, eat, surf. You know, afternoon talk, surf, and then hopefully not have to fly, surf some more, and whatever. I didn't survive there for more than a couple of days, but it was interesting that, again, Marty would make some some pretty big sacrifices in his lifestyle just to be near the water, serve, whatever had to happen.
Marty was a very nice person. I've known Marty for 33 years and go back to the Coast Guard with him. But it's kind of interesting to hear everybody else talk about him too, because they experience the same thing. How kind he is, how he has an open house. I noticed I had that same experience with him too. It's pretty interesting to hear everybody else say the same thing. And it just shows what kind of guy he is. Same nice person with everybody. He doesn't single anybody out and treat them any different. I've stayed here at the house too, and I didn't know it was such an open house as some of the stories I've heard here today, but it's remarkable. Like 5 and 4 months. I found out today he had some old guy here for 1.5 years. And I guess he passed away in here, and the guy just needed a place to stay. And anyway, I just see these themes, same themes, everybody's saying in some different way or another. I don't have any funny stories about Marty. He lived right down from me in townhome in his brief marriage. I was married too, and he'd come over, and the late night thing, I keep hearing that too. And he'd come knock on my door, and I'm an early person. In Hawaii, everybody goes to bed early. Nobody stays up late there. And Marty come over there at 10, 11 o'clock and knock it on my townhome door, just saying, "Shane, I just can't stand being married." He said, "I just can't." He says, "I cannot deal with it." He says, "But I feel everybody wants me to be married." He felt in the Coast Guard that the Coast Guard advancement, you had to be married, and it kind of helps checking a block and everything else. But anyway, his wife was actually a very wonderful woman, and she used to make me lemon squares. I loved them, and so she just plowed them on over there all the time. But anyway, just to wrap it up, I've been listening to everybody. I got here Tuesday, and everybody, the first thing out of their mouth is how kind and open Marty is. The second thing was how healthy he is. And that's why we're all kind of shocked. And we all kind of want to know, well, if that happened to him, I want to know what's going on so I can make sure it doesn't happen to me. And the other thing was how he is with the open house, which kind of comes back around to, what a nice guy he is. Anyway, Marty really liked people. He liked to bring people together. And I think he'd be very happy right now. I'm sure he really is very happy because he brought everybody here together. And if he's looking at us right now, and I'm sure he is, he's somewhere around here, he's smiling. And Marty was a good person. I'm going to really miss him. And miss his phone calls. I've got him when we're fishing out the boat last month. And I said, "Marty, I'm out here fishing with Brad and everything." Anyway, he was just a great guy. And anyway, that's all I have to say.
One story about Marty. I'm 5 years old, and I don't know exactly where we were. I'm sure Michael might know. And there was a magic show going on. For some reason, out of all these kids, I get chosen to go up and be his assistant. And I'm very shy, if you haven't noticed already. So I'm there, and I'm really nervous, and I can hear everybody in my family screaming, "You can do it, Michaela!" And the only person I can really hear is Marty saying, "You can do it, Michaela, you can do it." It was like a shock. So I have stage fright since then. But he's always been my cheerleader and my hero.
Yeah. Yeah.
30 years I was in the and Andy, and anyways, I showed up at Barker's Point, and Marty was very friendly, very welcoming, made me feel right at home. We started going surfing together all the time, and we just had a wonderful friendship. Anyways, Marty got out and went to American Airlines, and I went to Polar Operations in Mobile. Lived in Pensacola. When about this time, Marty was his marriage was kind of coming apart at the seams, and he was constantly calling me from Nashville or wherever he was at on a layover, and you know, I was just going through all this emotional trauma on the phone with him, and a lot of times he'd show up, sometimes late at night, and my wife would walk into the living room and Marty'd be laying on the sofa with a blanket over him watching Donahue or something, you know. And anyways, I kind of feel like I helped him out then, but later on he helped me. He gave it back tenfold. I flew for many years for World Airways, and I'd occasionally get layovers here in Miami, and I'd always call Marty, come out and pick me up at the airport, and then we'd go out shopping for palm trees or something.
Tell about the story with the ladder.
Oh yeah. I was here a few months ago, and he had this ladder up there, and it was very rickety, and I was holding it, and you know, I just had these visions of him come just crashing down and dying on impact. But he was up there spraying his stuff in there, and it's a palm tree over there, and you can see it's come back to health. So that was really good. Well, anyways, over the years, I'd look Marty up on you know, layovers and such. And a few years ago, several years ago, I was down here. I took my sons to the Keys, and we stopped at Marty's house, and we stayed over, and they were very impressed with his kindness and generosity. And when we left, they said, "Dad, when I grow up, I want to be Mr. Marty." Yeah. And anyways, at the end of 2013, my mom passed away, which was really terrible, and World Airways closed down. I lost my six-figure job, and I got hired by one of those horrible cargo carriers out on 36th Street, and whatever, and North 36th Street there at the airport. And anyways, I had to stay someplace on my own dime, and Marty welcomed me here, and I stayed here when I went to training, and it just helped me out immensely. He was one of my only true friends I've ever had in my life. And I miss him terribly.
Lloyd was saying, talking about just how happy-go-lucky Marty was and just loved everybody and just kind of was a little bit of a prankster. As Lloyd, yesterday at the funeral home, for those of you that were here, Lloyd's like, "Joe, Michael, we need to come in bathing suits and our uniform tops." And we're like, "Okay, Lloyd, but that's Marty, you know," and I'm not sure that that father would have, but you know, that was Marty, okay? So that was a good idea. Yeah, that was Marty. I lost my other train of thought. I haven't slept in 3 days. We haven't all, but I'll think of the other thing I was going to say. Somebody else, I'll turn the microphone to. Oh, the other story is this part 2 of his boat, his beloved boat. You don't see his little beloved boat out there anymore. Marty would give you the shirt off his back. He loaned his boat to one of his friends, his old beater, whaler with the motor, and he just had it fixed up, Boston whaler. He loaned it to a friend, and the second part of that story was his friend sunk it. But you know what? Marty didn't care, because that was Marty. He didn't care. He was like, "Oh, that's okay. You know, we'll get another one." That is just that tells you about Marty. So, God, we loved him to death, man. He was really. So we got to keep it around. Everybody's got to say something here, please. We really do. Okay. If you think of something else you want to say, I mean, we got all afternoon here. We got the drinks. It's great. Here you go.
Yeah, not that he was only that good to people, he was also wonderful to pets, because I used to be involved in that.
Gold, as everybody knows. And the phone call, as you all know and you all pointed out, once he got you on the phone, it was it. But he was a load of information, and he loved to share it. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Here. Thanks, Thanks, Rick.
Marty, like a lot of us in the Coast Guard or whatever, came in. Yeah, I was in the Coast Guard. I don't want to mention the other service I was in. When mention that, it's like having social disease on your medical record. So anyway, but we all wound up there Whiting as instructors. Navy Air Station Whiting, the primary flight instructing. So just a couple of Coast Guard instructors sprinkled at each one. So if anybody was there, they remember there was these three little nasty shacks, and you trudged out on the flight line and took your student out in the morning, and you know, if you were unlucky, it was a Marine that was, you know, following you out there or whatever and stuff. But we'd sit there and wave at each other. We had little blue hats on and stuff as we head out there. But so now I would see Marty here and there. And I went to 130 school. He did. I think he went to Barbers Point. Then I went to Elizabeth City. But eventually we wound up with American, like a lot of us, and interspersed with different names and with the Coast Guard and whatnot. But he came and got me at the Sherry one night, the Sherry Frontenac, where the infamous layover hotel is. And I'd never been here. He came and got me in a Corvette. And this was right when we had a bad time. I think 2003 when we were going to get a serious pay cut. And he walked me through that house. He says, "Don't make any noise. This guy is like sleeping. He's got a sign in tomorrow, whatever. Don't make any noise." This guy is like, and we went out here. He wasn't happy. I don't know which tree it was he was banging his head into, but you know, he was not happy. I would sit there and listen to him. So sometimes you just listen. But we flash forward. I moved down here. I was up in Washington, D.C. most of the time, and my wife and I decided the last 2 years, no commuting, I'll just come down here and rent on the beach here. And we did. But I guess the last year and a half, we tried numerous times to get together. And I call him, he called me. I ride my bicycle over here and go knock on the front door, but I think, you know, with his parents. And we had some family sickness problems and stuff too, so just keep calling him. Sometimes he would just talk and so whatever the latest subject was that was going to sing him through the ceiling, he was telling me about. But interesting, I ran into a guy in the hallway the other day that I had flown with at Washington, but came here in the 777 and just flown with Marty. And says, "Hey, I flew with Marty." He says, "You know, yeah, you were in the Coast Guard, and we mentioned you, and he liked you and all this stuff." He said he did, but he emailed me this morning when I was in St. Thomas. I came up from St. Thomas today on a trip, and he says, "The thing I remember about that trip was all 3 days he just mentioned his mother. He was really upset about that."
He loved his mother.
Yeah, I mean, he said all he did was, I think this guy only flew in once. He said he talked about his mother all 3 days. So, lucky mother. So that's it.